So the notes thinking chart, the notes responds to what was actually in the text. The thinking responds to what you were taking away from the text. And again, that is a strategy from Jennifer Saravallo's Reading Strategies book. So now we're going to do, and I know you probably didn't have time to finish the whole piece that you were reading, you're going to share at your tables what you read, what the text said, and what you got out of that. So let's take just a couple minutes to share what you got about literacy development from that quick read you just did. Go ahead and talk about that.
I haven't wrapped my brain around this thing, but I wrote it down. Just took a long time reading it.
Right.
Despite the widespread belief that readers need to recognize letters in order to identify words, and words to comprehend meanings, reading actually works in the first direction.
Did you read the Smith chapter?
Is that the one I have?
Yes.
Letters, words, and meanings? And
Yes.
so I'm like, that's what I thought. I thought that you have to identify letters, sounds, and stuff in order to create meaning. But according to this article, which I haven't finished, so I don't really know why that's true, but
So his whole book is like that. It is a mind-blowing book. I have it in my room, and I would say hands down that was the one book that completely changed how I viewed reading. So really what Frank Smith is arguing is that we think we have to teach all these sub-skills before we can comprehend. When you think about the kids who do well with letters and sounds, those are the kids who've already had some prior reading experience, so therefore they have the meaning to apply those things to. So yeah, his whole book is just completely mind-blowing, and the way he kind of walks you through some almost brain exercises, some reading exercises. Alright, and so what we're going to look at today is some actual student data, and we're going to use a protocol to talk about that data. So we're going to simplify this just a little bit because the entire protocol is in your handout. You can see that the entire thing is supposed to take an hour. We're not going to take an hour today. Does that just blow your mind? See, Frank Smith always blows my mind. He's my go-to guy to blow my mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of quickly ask some questions about some data that we will provide for you. So overall, we're going to describe what do we see in the data. So that's kind of the first question that we're asking. We're interpreting the data. We're going to ask, what does the data suggest? And then our implications for classroom practice, what steps could be taken next? So you see these here as bullets 2, 3, and 4. So instead of doing all those sub-questions, we're just going to do the big questions today of what do you see for describing the data? For interpreting the data, what does the data suggest? And for implications for classroom practice, what steps could be taken next? Here's the data that we're going to be using today. This comes from a little guy that Don was working with a few years ago, and he is a kindergartner. And so we're not just picking kindergartners because they're our favorite and they're super cute, which they are, but because if this is about literacy development, I think that's one of the most mysterious times, is how do you go from, being more oral and not even talking as an infant to all of a sudden entering this world of literacy, as Frank Smith calls it, is the club. So what we have here are a series of books over time that Nicholas has written, and each document you can go through, like this one was from September. You go through to the next one, and you'll see that was a little bit later in the year, October, and so on. So we know in the time today, because we're only going to be able to take about 10 minutes on this, you're not going to get through all of them. So just start one kind of piece at a time, and your questions are describing it, what does it look like, interpreting it, what does this data tell us, and then the final steps, what are the implications for classroom practice. So this is a protocol that will help us stay focused on the data, and we will be using it as some of our own student data as we meet and feel systems. It'll take about 10 minutes to complete that activity, looking at the data that is from Nicholas's books in your